Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What a glorious sunrise we're having here in Sydney. It's another awesome autumn day, and as you can see, Circular Quay is very, very busy at the moment with ferries coming and going. It's Tuesday. I've got the day off from work, but I decided to hop on the bus, come down to the city and pump out a few more 5am clubs to add to my tally and to slowly but surely get and reach my goal of 1,000 within the year that I've set this goal. So the book summary that I'm going to go through today is entitled Brainwashed by Lindstrom. It's a simple book entitled Brainwash by an author named Lindstrom. And as you can see, I'm just up here and we have the rooms of the Quay restaurant. We've got the table here set out for about 20 or so people to have lunch, but a wonderful location to catch up with friends and family. So where does this book take us? The author kicks off with a quote from the book, and the author says that the fear of failure drives consumers far more than the promise of success. And this is one of the natural things that we have wired into us. The fear of failure, the fear of pain is far more motivating than the pleasure and the promise of reward. Just amazing how people will just not do things because of some irrational fear that they may have dreamed up in their mind or may have inherited from their friends and families and the media. Who knows where they get these fears from? But most of the fears that are holding us back are irrational fears. But the thing is that the media, the advertisers, the marketing people of the world know how to manipulate and to use these things to leverage the way our brain is and how we're wired to get us to do things that we don't necessarily want to do, but we end up doing because we've been tricked or enticed into doing it in the first place. So this book here will teach us a little bit more about the tricks that people use to influence us and to get us to buy their products and to behave in certain ways. Because when it's all said and done, marketers have a pretty good idea how your brain works and know your mind's weaknesses much better than we do. Oh wow, what a world we live in. So it's all lights and mirrors, as they say. So they use this knowledge that they have against us to win us against ourselves. So let's move on now and talk about the first formal point to come out of this book. And the author here says that we end up buying things we don't need because stores know how to use our fears against us. So we end up buying things that we don't need. And I've got to tell you, Paula and I have a garage full of things. In fact, 2 garages full of things that we don't need. We don't know what to do with. And we certainly need to get on top of it to get our cars back into the garage. So the author then goes on to explain how it works and why it works. And they say here that our primitive selves had fears hardwired into ourselves to help us survive, because back in those days, back in caveman times, or even 2,000 years ago when we were doing hand-to-hand combat and the world wasn't as safe at what it is today. Our primitive selves had fear hardwired into ourselves to help us survive because threats were very real and the world around us was very dangerous. And there's a part of the brain, and I'll talk about it again and again, and there's a part of a brain called the amygdala. Amygdala, which is the Greek word which means almond. So I'd imagine it's the shape and size of an almond, but it's the part of our brain that scans the environment for fears, for threats, and generates a response, a reaction, instantaneous. It enables us to secrete hormones into our bloodstream and into our brains, and make us attentive, make us freeze, and then gets us ready, ever ready for flight or fight. It's our fight or flight response. But what happens is once these hormones are secreted into our bloodstream, the cortisol and all of the other things, then what it does is it blocks the rational part of our brain, so we can't think rationally about what we're doing, and we become impulsive. So you can understand, as a marketer, as a advertiser, as a person who wants to make money out of us, that the way to do it is to first create fear, uncertainty and doubt, get our attention, get us startled, and then get us to fight or flight, or get us to take some sort of action. So advertisers are experts at using the fear factor against us to get us to do what they want us to do. Because when we're fearful, when we're startled, when we're scared, we're frightened, we are unable to rationally think and to settle down. So once you're activated, once your amygdala is activated and the hormones are secreted into your body, then it takes a while for you to calm down and to be rational again. That's why whenever you're in an argument with somebody and things get heated, the best thing to do is just to back off for about 20 minutes, half an hour for things to settle down, and then try and re-engage. Because if you try and re-engage immediately, it's just going to go on and get worse and worse and worse. So advertisers are great at amping up and leveraging our fears, our imagined fears, because they're not real fears. All of the fears that we have are irrational, imagined fears that have been created by advertisers, where they are good at blowing things way out of proportion and making things appear much and far worse than what they really are. So that's the trick. And we've got friends like that. We've got lots of friends, who will blow things out of proportions, make things sound as if they're impending, they're immediate, and the world's going to end in disaster. But the reason why they do that is so that they can capture our attention and to dominate us. Because if they know what's happening, or if they appear to know what's happening by their fear-mongering, then you'll tend to want to shop with them and be with them and trust them, because they are the person who's going to be the knight in shining armour. But we know better. We know that they are just bullshit artists, and what they're doing is that they're doing it for their own benefit. So the author then goes on to talk about how marketers and advertisers also understand how addictions are formed in our minds, and they leverage that addictiveness that we all have in various elements or various portions. And they know the process well, and they exploit it to get us to buy over and over again. Foods and devices, for an example. We just use those as an example. Food and devices you can get really addicted to. How many of us are addicted to our iPhone? How many of us are addicted to fat-laden and sugar-laden foods? We just love them. We just can't get enough of it. And I remember I had an uncle, Vlasis Papadopoulos, who has passed away, and he would always say that when he was home late at night, just relaxing, all of a sudden a chocolate ad would come on with a Caramello or a Dairy Milk or you name it. You remember those chocolate ads? And all of a sudden he'd have an insatiable desire to have some chocolate, and he'd get in his car and go to the petrol station and just buy a huge block of chocolate and just stuff his face. And I remember we used to laugh about it, because every time an ad came on television, it would remind him of his weakness. And also, the other thing that we've found out is whenever a phone rings, you know how we've all got different ringtones on our phones, we've got message tones, we've got Facebook tones. They've done some studies, and whenever that phone rings in a particular way, there's a part of our brain which is associated with being in love, and all of a sudden when that message ring happens, the part of the brain lights up, which kind of indicates that we're in love with our phone at that particular time. Of course, it's based on association, because the person who probably sends the message or rings us could be the person that we love, or it could be a debt collector. Who knows? But I guess most people are just kind of hoping that when the phone rings, it's a loved one at the end of it, or it's a nice little message, a supportive message coming through. Because the author then goes on to say that when we go shopping and when we do all those sorts of things, we get a high. We get a dopamine hit, which puts us on a high. And it's very, very, very difficult to break that cycle. So we've got marketing people, we've got advertisers, we've got all of these people who know how the brain works, who know how our addictions work, and are playing us at every single opportunity. So the trick is to be aware of it, and also to understand that our children, our grandchildren, the young ones, the vulnerable ones in our society, in terms of smoking, in terms of alcohol, in terms of fatty foods and sugary foods, they're all being influenced without them even knowing that they're getting influenced. Because the manufacturers know what we crave and load our foods with fats and sugars, and then they just leave us to our own devices, knowing that we're going to need that fix over and over again. So the last thing that the author talks about is the leveraging that organisations and people use to get us to act immediately and make a purchase based on fake peer pressure that the vendor is able to create. It comes as no surprise that human nature is for us to follow other people. Now, we love patterns in our lives, and we love patterns of behaviour. Things like designer brands, and the people who sell these things and market these things know how to get us to purchase the different brands by associating them with a sports star or a movie star or somebody, to give them a luxury feel, and trying to enable us to see ourselves as those other people. So they're trying to leverage us through brands to take advantage of our psychology. I remember years ago, one of the great marketers of all, the advertising genius of John Singleton, back in the days when everybody used to wear a shirt with a label, a logo on the front. I remember the Pierre Cardin shirts, the white business shirt which had the PC on the front, and everybody who wanted to be somebody wanted to have a Pierre Cardin shirt with the logo on the front. And I remember John Singleton once saying and voicing his opinion, saying, well, why should I wear a shirt with somebody else's name on it? Why can't I just wear a shirt with my name on it? Why does it have to be Pierre Cardin or Fila or Lacoste? And he made a point, but then again, he was a marketing genius, and he was the one who was most probably leveraging those skills to get us to buy the products and to associate with the luxury. So the other thing that he talks about is things like reviews. We love reading reviews, we love reading social media, and to be social proofed. And he says that a lot of restaurants, a lot of businesses, a lot of car dealers, they use reviews. But what they do is they create fake reviews and fake peer pressure to make you want to go to a particular cafe or to a particular restaurant. Because the reality is that the reviews that you see in the newspapers, the reviews that you see on Facebook and all other places are basically paid for. You pay a marketing company to organise a review, to talk up your restaurant, to talk up your business, because what you're doing is you're creating fake peer pressure. Now, things like bestseller lists. I learnt this new today, I wasn't aware of it, that when you go to a Dimmicks or when you go to a shop or when you look online and they talk about things being bestsellers, the bestseller or the names that appear at the top are based on who wants to pay the most to be in the top 10. So it's a business enterprise that people do to basically sell more of their product. And it's not an actual bestseller, it's just a bestseller list based on people's opinions and people's the depth of people's products or pockets. So there you go. So let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I am well, I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, stay reasonable. To each and every one of us, let's have a wonderful Tuesday. Let's make the most of this day. And I just hope that we can help each other, be partners in each other's development, to be the wind beneath our wings, to enable us to learn something new every day and to incorporate it into our skill sets so that we can live, learn and pass it on. And I hope that you too gain some insights, as I did, out of this wonderful book entitled Brainwashed by Martin Lindstrom, and to understand how our brain works and the fact that the marketers and the advertisers and the business people out there know exactly how our mind works and leverage that and basically coerce us and entice us, because we do things that we like anyway as well. But a lot of the things that we buy we don't really need, and we do it because we're pressured through fake reviews, through fake lists, and the advertisers, the marketing, the media create an environment of fear, uncertainty and doubt to have us living in this fear, this irrational fear, in order to spend the money that we have buying things we don't need to impress people we don't like. Anyway, we can go on and on about this, but you get the gist, you get the drift. So I'll finish up now. Γεια σας, φιλάκια, Christos Anesti, to all my friends and family, and we'll chat again soon. Thanks for joining me on this episode, and I appreciate your support. Bye for now. Γεια σας.